really fell into five essential elements, Sneha, and those were self-awareness, external awareness, strategic thinking, executive presence, and thought leadership. And so the Promotability Index, which I call the PI for short, enables pretty much anyone in any industry, anywhere along their career path, all the way from landing an executive role in the C-suite, as well as seasoned CEOs who want to stay at the top, to use the PI assessment and then the guidebook that I'm releasing to discover how their skills stack up against these five elements that I mentioned.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the PeopleHum interview series. This is your host Neha at PeopleHum.
peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Awards that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel, which receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month.
We have with us today Amii Barnard-Bahn, a former Fortune Global 50 executive. Amii is a consultant to the C-suite and leaders at global companies like Bank of the West, Adobe, and The Gap. Recognized by Forbes as one of the top coaches for legal and compliance executives, she's a former Chief Human Resources Officer and a member of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches. Amii guest lectures at Stanford and UC Berkeley and is a contributor to Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, and Compliance Week, and is a fellow at the Harvard Institute of Coaching. Amii earned her law degree from Georgetown University Law Center, BA from Tufts, and is an ICF certified professional certified coach. A lifelong diversity advocate, Amii testifies for the successful passage of the first laws in the US requiring corporate boards to include women. That sounds very inspiring, Amii, and we're looking forward to our conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. So, Amii, the first thing that I want to ask you is that please tell us about Barnard-Bahn coaching and consulting and the work that you do there.
Sure. So I founded my leadership and coaching consultancy around a mission to help organizations create healthy workplace cultures. And to do this in a way where employees thrive, leaders must progress to a higher level of performance, and teams must be motivated and engaged to do their work. And so based on my professional experience as a Chief Human Resources Officer and managing teams as a Fortune Global 50 executive, combined with my expertise as a lawyer, I'm equipped to serve as a trusted advisor to executive level clients and advocate for responsible corporate governance. So I coach and collaborate with clients using the most effective coaching methodologies to overcome blind spots and potential issues and to hone the skills that C-suite leaders really need in order to create high functioning teams and lead organizations successfully.
Absolutely. That sounds very interesting. And that also sounds like, you have a 360-degree view of everything that you want to accomplish, because there's like a very varied skill set that you possess to make sure that, your objectives are met through work. And I feel like that's absolutely commendable.
Thank you.
So moving on, Amii, you're the creator of the Promotability Index Leadership Self-Assessment. So please do enlighten us on its usage. We'd love to learn more about it, and how can one benefit from it at the workplace?
Sure. I can share a few points about that. I think that you get to a certain point where you realize that being a successful leader is a lot more than just mastering your technical skills, even though that's what we first start out doing. As soon as we graduate from school, we want to be the technical specialist. But then as you move along in your career, you realize that there are really some key attributes that all leaders possess, which get them noticed by management and give them that power of influence. And influence is so critical because it enables leaders to gain employee trust in their vision and confidence in their ability to execute ideas. And so every management review that I've been involved with over the past decade and additional research showed me that those key attributes of those leaders that really make it happen and really inspire really fell into five essential elements, Sneha. And those were self-awareness, external awareness, strategic thinking, executive presence, and thought leadership. And so the Promotability Index, which I call the PI for short, enables pretty much anyone in any industry, anywhere along their career path, all the way from landing an executive role in the C-suite, as well as seasoned CEOs who want to stay at the top, to use the PI assessment and then the guidebook that I'm releasing to discover how their skills stack up against these 5 elements that I mentioned. Because these are the things that decision makers evaluate around performance when considering high potential leaders. And so I guess I would sum up by saying this can be used as a personal standalone career growth tool or as a complement to other assessments that companies use in their annual review cycle. It really takes a common language for leaders and employees and executive team and outlines specific steps that you can take and repeat as you build out your essential leadership skills.
That sounds highly interesting, and I can see how that can help leaders in the roles that they're already playing. So when we talk about concepts such as leadership, what always amazes me is that even though they're such universal concepts, they're perceived very differently by different people across age ranges, across timelines, and that's really interesting. But then when you think about what makes leaders, and what are the qualities that exist across all leaders, it's wonderful to see how you came upon this index, and I'm sure it must definitely be very helpful. So for our viewers and listeners, I want to ask you, is there a resource that we can refer to if we want to know more about this, or if we can avail this? How do we go about it?
It's actually, I've tried to make it quite easy. You can text the word promote me, all one word, to 44222. And then you can get a copy. I've made the assessment free for people. So it's 82 questions, and people have given excellent feedback around it's insightful, and they feel like they know more of what they need to work on. And a lot of people share it with their leaders or with their teams. If they're already an executive, they've shared it with their teams, and it's helped create a common language around what is expected and what people should be aiming for, and it helps with all of those things. So
absolutely. So thanks a lot for telling that to us, because I'm sure we'll all benefit from it and avail of it as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So moving on, Amii, you've been very vocal in speaking about women having a platform for their unique challenges and perspectives, and you've also worked towards ensuring that. So we'd love to know more about the work that you do.
Thank you. Well, while pursuing my undergraduate college and law degrees, I had some really incredible opportunities to work with women's shelters, with the Boston School for the Blind. And one of my first jobs in law school was lobbying through the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so those experiences really forged my dedication to creating a platform in the workplace for people that had unique challenges and perspectives so that everyone could be represented. And I think that makes for stronger companies. So over the past 2 years, as you mentioned, I had the privilege of testifying and advocating in multiple legislative committees in California and in the state of Washington for the corporate diversity laws that recently changed, and that are the first laws in the country to require corporate boards to include women. Some already did, some boards already had women, but it was moving quite slowly. And it needed a little nudge, as we would say. So ultimately, my work in getting women on boards is about ensuring access to ensure the most qualified people serve on boards, regardless of gender, race, or disability. Because boards have the power. They're so important. Sneha, as you know, governance is pretty critical for all of us to have sustainable jobs, sustainable companies that care about our communities. And boards are empowered to ask the questions and demand the data and to rectify the gender pay gap and do all kinds of things that are quite important in terms of an oversight role. And they protect employees and they enforce company culture. So having a board that truly reflects the employee population and investors is really important. And I believe it enables innovation as well.
Absolutely. And to see that you already have mechanisms in place that, take care of all of this is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful that you're working towards that. But I have a follow-up question for you. So this is when we talk about mechanisms. But what would your advice towards leaders be? What can they actively do to include inclusion at the workplace, let's say on like a more day-to-day basis?
Well, first and foremost, organizations that are truly dedicated will buy in and truly understand the benefits of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And once they're aligned around that as a value statement, then they can really focus on specific actions that really change the infrastructure of the organization to ensure that pay and promotion and hiring decisions are based on a meritocracy. I recently wrote an article for Harvard Business Review with regard to fixing pay inequality. And I tried to make it very straightforward in terms of what you do. It's actually very simple. It's not easy. But the steps in ensuring pay equality are actually quite straightforward. And there are very clear companies' steps that can be taken to audit practices objectively and to demonstrate that they treat all employees fairly and with respect. And I think that creating equity really creates equality. The second thing that I would mention is something that all leaders could do. Ensuring that all voices are heard is critical. And so creating a cultural norm where everyone's expected to provide their opinion at meetings ensures that not only the loudest or the most confident person speaks is really important, because our employees are our best asset, as you know, and as your company works so much on in terms of human capital. And so if we're not encouraging all voices to contribute, we are not leveraging our most precious resource. And so leaders can create a cultural norm where they literally require everyone briefly, you can set a time limit, that everybody contributes their ideas, or maybe they ask the quiet person in the room, hey, what are you thinking about this? And it can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you had a culture where only one or two people were speaking, or it was very hierarchical. But if leaders make this a practice regularly, employees are more engaged. They know they better be thinking about what to contribute. It's good for everyone. It keeps you sharp. And especially in a Zoom environment, when we're all working remotely, it's actually kind of easier to do because you can literally go around and see everyone and make sure that everyone contributes. So I really like practical solutions that focus on the core infrastructure around rewards, recognition, inclusion, and those really have a long-lasting impact.
Absolutely. All of those things are very doable. And, seeing as how you just talked about it, the pandemic has been very difficult on all of us. And these steps can easily be inculcated and made into a practice that can even be done in remote work environments.
Yes.
That's absolutely great.
Or distributed teams. I work with many executives who were always worked remote with their teams. They've had a global purview, and they used to be able to go visit. So that's one thing they can't do. But board meetings, other things, those were always virtual. So this is something that for some people is a big change, but for some people it's a moderate change.
Absolutely. And I feel like if the past year has taught us anything, is that, we have to be malleable to change. So I feel like even if there is a lot of change in place, it should be doable. I mean, it should be all right.
Yes, you're right.
So Amii, you're in a very exciting process right now of launching 2Q21, the PI Guidebook. So please tell us more about it. We'd love to hear about it.
Thank you. It is exciting. I'm writing my first book. It's quite a process. I've learned a lot and still learning a lot. And that's partly why I'm doing it. It's fun for me to always keep learning. I've put in a lot of work to create an interactive toolkit. So with the assessment we mentioned earlier that's free, people asked for more. So this is an interactive toolkit, the assessment together with the guidebook, and it kind of provides a choose your own adventure, kind of a type of development path for professionals who are serious about their career and who really do want to keep growing and learning. And the guidebook complements the assessment and includes over 30 exercises to create a personalized self-development plan based on where anybody is in their leadership capabilities. So it helps professionals assess, what's unique about your leadership, what are your strengths, what are some potential obstacles that could get in the way, and then it helps you take some concrete steps in accelerating your career. It was the assessment was really popular last year, especially I think during the pandemic when people felt that a little bit out of control, things were not in their control, and concerned about how they were going to keep progressing in their learning and in their careers. And leaders were wondering, how can I help my employees? How can I support them during this difficult time? And so people asked for more, and that's really how the guidebook was born. Over 1,000 people have taken it. Fortune 500 companies have used the assessment or come to me and asked me to speak at their companies to help employees and HR and their leaders define self-development plans to move the whole team in the organization forward. So my hope is that as many professionals can use this as possible. to increase their path to self-awareness and greater job satisfaction, really. If you're in the driver's seat, you have a lot more satisfaction around your career, around knowing what you want, what makes you special, what you contribute to your company. And so my hope is that this is a very affordable add-on for companies and employees to use and easily adopt over really the entire span of their career, from getting a board seat all the way from just starting your first job.
Absolutely. That sounds very, very helpful. I'm sure that our viewers and listeners right now would love to check it out. And more than everything, I really want to congratulate you on your success. And I'm sure that that's due and that's going to happen. And it sounds like a very, very good concept. That's what I love the most about this entire endeavor. That sounds absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Amii, moving on to the last question. Do you have a quote that best describes your feelings towards the future of work, workplace, and you?
Yes, let's see. It's not a quote so much as a philosophy. I was recently reviewing a study that found that hard skills and technical knowledge are now, given our VUCA velocity environment, now only has a lifespan of 4 to 6 years. So if you think about all that technical knowledge that, I mean, as an attorney, I had my technical knowledge. If you're an IT person or an HR person or an executive, sales, development, marketing, anything, they're saying that hard skills really only have a 4 to 6 year lifespan. So that means all of our relationship skills and that the key elements that I put into the Promotability Index are really going to be more important over time. What some people call soft skills, but they're really what ultimately gets you promoted, because ultimately the technical skills are just the ticket to the game, and the relationships are really what leads to your ability to get along with and to lead others. And so I think this pandemic really put a spotlight on the need for a dynamic workplace. And as we continue to move forward into a dynamic, more distributed, virtual, and global environment, that includes disruptions with technology like AI, jobs are going to grow and change, and even some will be eliminated. And so, as you alluded to, we really need to stay nimble to be able to compete. And none of us achieves alone, but we each need to be the one leading our own success and investing in our own learning. And so I feel that ultimately being strategic and actively managing and investing in your own career is an imperative, and it's really not an option anymore.
Absolutely. And a lot of people have, talked about how technology has played a very big role over the past year because of the pandemic. But I feel like we need to give just as much importance to, the people skills that you mentioned, because a lot of people have been speaking about issues that actually have come to the forefront, such as, mental health and working from home, and how many hours do you give to all of that. So we have basically, in a way, understood the importance of people as a resource, along with understanding how important technology is, because we've been invested in it 24/7 for like the past entire year. So that's a very wonderful point that you just made, because I feel like we all sometimes need that reality check.
Well, and I like how you brought in the mental health. That's something that I don't think was acceptable to speak about prior to the pandemic. And now it's on the table. It's out there because the pandemic created a level playing field in terms of the potential for burnout. And some people were always in professions potentially that had burnout, and gosh, healthcare and our frontline healthcare workers have been exceptional, as well as our distribution employees, FedEx and others who have kept our commerce going globally. But it is important, and I hope that we're moving towards a light at the end of the tunnel with that.
Let's all hope so. And that's a very, very hopeful note to end the interview on. Amii, it was wonderful talking to you. I had a great time, and I'm sure so did our viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. The pleasure was all ours.